Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, training. It's about 4:30 in the morning right now. I'm going to try and keep most of the things that I talk about today on the nuts and bolts, X's and O's. So I guess we'll just kind of start with the warm-up here. Especially right now, you guys can probably tell I'm wearing a hoodie and a hat. I'll probably have overlaid something here. It's actually snowing in Chicago this morning, so it's very cold. So especially now, but always, even in the summertime, I always take time to warm up before every training session, and I'm gonna kind of film some of my warm-up stuff. I'm definitely not gonna talk about all of it because it could be a separate video on its own, probably, but look, I don't think that this is necessary. I think there's going to be a lot of people that'll see us and say that it's maybe overkill. For me, this just stems from athletic background, playing football, basically for 7 years, American football, and then baseball for about the same amount of time. We never, especially in football, we never just walked out of the locker room and went onto the field. We always took time to warm up, get our body acclimated, adjusted, and get ready to perform. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that think it's stupid to compare football to weight training. To a certain extent it is, because it's obviously not a combat sport. But to me, I kind of think of my workouts almost like a football game, especially full body training, because full body training is a very long workout and obviously very demanding on the full body. And so I do take time to warm my body up and get my body moving, especially this early in the morning. You know, if I train later in the afternoon, maybe around 1 or 2 meals, and I've gotten 6,000 or 7,000 steps at that point in the day, you know, my body's a little bit more loose. But at this point, I'm kind of just waking up, cracking an energy drink, and getting to the gym. So I got to get my body up and moving. So I'll kind of film some of that. It's probably a separate video on its own to kind of go into everything, but this will just maybe give you guys some ideas as to what goes into warming up. So right now I'm on the treadmill, probably be on here for another, I don't know, 2 to 3 minutes, and then I'll probably go on one of the step mills behind me. I like to do that for maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll be on the turf and we'll use the sled. And then after the sled, we'll kind of get some dynamic type of stretching and warm-up stuff going. All right, I don't want to talk about all of the mobility warm-up type of stuff that I do, but I will talk about what I believe to probably be the most important one, and that is kind of getting my feet going. I'm sure if you guys have been longtime followers, you guys have noticed with the shoes that I wear, sometimes every time that I deadlift, I go completely barefoot. I'm a pretty big advocate of foot health, making sure that your feet are strong and healthy and mobile. Every exercise that you do starts with your feet. If your feet are connected to the ground, your feet are what is creating energy for you. So for example, in a press, when you're really driving through the hard reps, you're driving your legs into the ground to create backwards tension, for lack of a better word, counter force, so that you're driving your body back into, let's say, the bench or the seat that you're using. All of that starts from your feet. You know, not to get super scientific and whatnot, but when we're lifting, we're just kind of transferring energy between us and the earth. But the way that we do that is through where we connect to the ground. So everything starts from your feet. You know, this could probably be another video that's its entire own topic, but how I kind of like to take care of my feet or whatever. But main things that I like to do is spending as much time barefoot as possible, wearing barefoot shoes, And then with this particular warm-up drill, I'm kind of just, my right foot in particular is really fucked up. I think this is another reason why I spend so much time on this, is because as I said earlier, I played football. I never had any major injuries, but I sprained and twisted and rotated this ankle literally like more times than I could ever count. So it shows on my physique. My right leg is smaller. Whenever I have injuries in my leg, it's always in my right leg, my right knee, my right hip, my right adductor. So that obviously starts with the issues that I have from the ground. The big one, not only just rolling my feet around on a lacrosse ball and kind of getting the muscles warmed up, but is a big toe stretch. Normally I do this without any socks on, but these socks are thin enough I can kind of move around. By the way, another thing about foot health is you should be able to like freely move your big toe and the other four. I'm really focusing on stretching the big toe. I get really, really tight here in the arch, and so by stretching the big toe, we kind of stretch out all that muscle tissue and kind of get that loosening up. It's super painful if you're not like used to it. You know, that's one of the things about feet and taking care of your feet, is if you have really bad foot health, once you kind of get your foot mobility and whatnot unlocked, like it's really, really painful to work into these muscles and everything, but that's part of the game. I want you guys to notice on some of these things, like these hip 90-90s here, I don't do like static stretching. So it's common for people to maybe do a stretch like this, or maybe they do this stretch kind of more facing this way. And then for them to hold it for 60 seconds to a minute or 2 minutes or something like that. I do reps. So like with the 90-90, I come to the 90-90 position, and then I think about externally rotating at this leg and then externally rotating with the left leg, and I actually do a rep. Think of like a glute bridge, but off on this plane here. So I'm not coming here and holding, I'm coming here and then I'm contracting the muscle, relaxing the muscle. Contracting, relaxing. I never really get much or have ever gotten much out of doing the static stretching thing. It just doesn't really do anything for me. This kind of is quicker. You know, I'm doing reps instead of holding it for however long, and I do find that it kind of warms up the area a little bit more efficiently. So give that a try if you're doing some sort of stretching stuff. Like here too, I'm not just hanging out, I'm squeezing my glutes, externally rotate, internally rotate. Just try to lift, internally rotate. This is another one that's kind of big for me. With me hitting my quads 2 sets every other day, leg extension and a squat, my quads are like permanently sore and permanently tight. So I gotta kind of get some hip flexion going and kind of ease back into this stretch. Kind of same kind of premise. Stretch. Contract. Also thinking about driving the glutes through as I come through. And as I kind of do more reps of this, everything kind of eases and relaxes, and we can maybe start to push this a little more. But kind of just like to get into these here. Flexion and extension of the spine. same thing, reps, squeeze, stretch, squeeze. All right, we're nice and loose. Let's go lift. Abs and calves first, as always. I don't think there's anything I really need to talk about here that I haven't talked about before. I'll always do 2 exercises. I'll always do a decline crunch, that's what I'm sitting on, and then I'll always do a leg raise. Some people would say you can't bias the upper and lower abs, but I feel distinctly different parts of my midsection when I do a leg raise and a decline crunch. So you can, think what you want, but I feel differently. So I'll always do the decline crunch alternating back and forth between a heavy day and a light day. Today's the light day, so I'm gonna do my working set with a 20-pound dumbbell. On the heavy day, I do a 35-pound dumbbell, just to give an example of the weight difference there. And then for the leg raise, I'll either do the leg raise that's literally right here. I would call this the captain's chair, or I would do a hanging leg raise, hanging from a pull-up bar. I think that both have pros and cons. Lately, I've been doing the captain's chair one because it's literally right next to the decline crunch, so I've kind of been supersetting those. And going back to the video that I uploaded about deload signs, I haven't really wanted to be in the gym for the last 2 weeks or so, so I've kind of just been trying to get the sessions done and over with, and because these are right next to each other, it's more time convenient for me to use this. Now, if I felt like my lats or my shoulders were tight, I actually would choose to do the hanging leg raise, because hanging there from the pull-up bar as I'm doing the leg raises, that traction kind of stretches out my lats and gets my shoulders moving. So if my upper back or lats or shoulders were tight, I would do hanging leg raises instead. But my body actually feels super loose and mobile this morning, even though it's pretty early. I actually feel really good. So I've kind of been choosing to do the captain's chair, and that's what I'll do today. I may fart during these. If I do, I'll leave it in, but don't make fun of me. Don't make fun of me. Oh, no farts. That's a win. Guys, I've set this up in an angle where I hope that you can see it. If not, I'll try and zoom in. I want you guys to notice what's happening at my lower back when I do these. I'm not thinking about just getting my leg up. My lower back needs to actually come off of the pad. We need to lose contact there. The abs are responsible for spinal flexion and extension. So we need to actually get into that flexion. And we do that with a posterior pelvic tilt. I've kind of said this before with the lying hamstring curl, but think about a dog taking a shit. When a dog takes a shit, they round their back like this. They don't arch it, they round it. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to actually take your pelvis and roll your pelvis up towards your chest. So your lower back needs to actively come off of the pad. So you'll notice that I get the lower back off of the pad, and then that's where I pause, and that's where I contract. I still may fart. When the reps start to get really hard, I'm going to drive my hands into these handles and drive my upper back backwards in the direction of my head towards the pad. Make it hard. Donkey calf raise, nothing too crazy here. This is the light day, so I'm aiming to fail around 12 reps. This is 5 pounds more than what I got last week, and I got 12 reps with that, so I'm hoping to get 12 today with this. That'd be nice. calves were up and felt amazing. Adductors now, this is the 20 rep set day. I'm probably going to show the first couple reps and then fast forward the middle 16 or 17 and then show maybe the last one or two. 20 reps is obviously a lot to watch, but I've kind of talked about this before. I do the adductor every other day in all 4 of my workouts, so I alternate between a bunch of rep ranges. I do one day in the 5 to 8, one day in the 8 to 12, one day in the 12 to 15, and then today is the 15 to 20 days. So I'm at a point where I found a weight that I can hit 20 reps with, and then I've just been adding 1 pound to that every single week and aiming to hit another 20. Okay. Standing unilateral leg curl. I'm sitting on the knee pad. This is a new movement for me. I guess kinda. Last week was the first week that I did it in like months, so it's not technically brand new. I just did it for the first time last week, but it had been a long time before that I had done it. I was previously running the lying leg curl here on A and C, but I was running into issues progressing both of those, so I wanted to replace one of those with this. On B and D, I used the seated leg curl, and both the seated leg curl days are progressing. It's only the lying leg curl days that aren't progressing, and my hip hinges are progressing too, so the only hamstring movements that I was doing that weren't progressing were the 2 lying leg curl days. So I want to break one of those days up to do single leg. So last week I hit this weight for 6. I'm hoping to either obviously beat that 6, or if I get 6 again and I just get better quality reps, I'd be happy with that too. Single leg extension now. 4 days ago when I did these the last time, I did these alternating, like right leg, left leg, left leg. I saw a TNF video, I tried it out. I didn't really know how I liked it. After thinking about it for a couple of days, I don't like it. I've come to that conclusion. I got less reps than what I normally did when I do all one leg at the same time. And it's a pain in the ass to be counting in the middle of the set. I don't have to count, but I do like to count. So I'm gonna go back to doing those single leg today. My right leg is smaller than my left, so I start with my right leg to be able to put more effort into that. I'm sure there's probably like a science-based lifter out there who would say that the alternating way to do these is better on paper, but if I don't enjoy it as much, then obviously I'm not going to stick to it. And this is douchey thing to say, but I've put good size on my legs over the course of the last 2 years. And I did that by partial, I've done single leg extensions for 2 years, doing them all one leg at the same time. So it would kind of be stupid for me to change that at that point. One of the main arguments that I hear about for the alternating thing is because you have better pelvic stabilization. I kind of just want to give a little tip for the pelvic stabilization thing. So what you won't be able to notice this from the video, but what I'll demonstrate right now is what I'm doing with the non-working leg. So say I'm doing the leg extensions with the right leg. This left leg is pressing into this like as if I was doing a leg extension. But the way that I set this up, so my working weight today is 115 pounds. The heaviest weight that this machine has is 155 pounds. So I'm gonna be doing the right leg with 115, and then I have this leg set up to be the heaviest weight that the machine has, so that as I'm driving this leg into the machine, the weight is so heavy that this isn't actually moving. If I were to, I just put this on the lightest weight, but say that I'm like going to dig out a rep with my right leg, and as I'm doing that, I'm driving my left leg into this, but then this moves. Now I've lost that contact point here. I want, when I drive this leg, the non-working leg, into the pad, I want that to not move, so that creates counterforce again, so that I can stabilize that energy back into me, so that I can direct it back into this leg. And then, as with any time I do a leg extension, whether it's unilateral or bilateral, I'm adding something in between my leg and the pad here to create more range of motion. I can further stretch the muscles if there's something that's actively kind of pulling my shin back, for lack of a better word. This just creates distance and thickness in between there. And then straps, maximum stabilization. The only thing that I'm missing is a seat belt. I do need to get a seat belt, so I'm working on that. That's on the shopping list. All right, all the lower body isolation stuff has been good. The last lower body movement that we have is the leg press, the Arsenal strength leg press to be specific. I'm actually resetting this today. Similarly to my lying hamstring curls, obviously I do 4 quad compound movements across my 4 sessions. On B and D, I do the hack squat and the pendulum squat, and those are progressing without any problems. But on the A and C workouts, I was running into some plateaus and actually some regressions with my leg presses. My leg presses were actually getting weaker. And when I took a look at the program, I noticed that on the B and D days, the hack and pendulum squat, I've been failing around like 5 to 6 reps. So staying in a pretty heavy rep range. And the leg presses, I was doing 5 and 6 reps too. So I think at this point, doing 5 and 6 reps on every compound movement is just kind of wearing on me. So earlier in the week on the A workout, I reset my Cybex leg press from 7 plates to 6 plates. And I went from 7 plates for 4 to 6 plates for 7. And so today I'm gonna go from, it's actually a little bit more than 5 plates. It was like 5 plates and a 10 on each side. to 4 plates on the Arsenal leg press. So that's actually over like a 20% weight increase. So I'm actually expecting to be able to get like 8 reps or maybe even more on this today. So the plan going forward is still to be doing quad compound work every other day. And then with the squatting movements, the spinal loaded squatting movements on the B and the D workout, hack squat and pendulum squat, I'm gonna stick in the like 5 to 6 rep range there, and then stick in like the 8 to 10 rep range on the leg press days. All right, I got exactly 8 reps on the leg press. Really happy with that. That's exactly what I wanted. So I'll either stick with that weight until I can build it up to 10, or I will very subtly micro load it, like 1 pound at a time. I'm a big fan of the fractional plates. I've talked about that before, but that is the lower body work done. Time to get into the upper body work. This is a workout C after all, and A and C have more upper body exercises than lower body. So I've got 7 upper body exercises coming up. The first 3 I'm really not going to talk about. So I'm about to do biceps, rear delts, and side delts. The 3 exercises that I'm doing are the preacher curl, the rear delt fly, and a machine lateral. And those 3 movements are actually, they're like in a triangle, like they're right next to each other. So I basically triset those. I just go back to back to back. And these 3 muscle groups are muscle groups that are, I don't want to say they're strong points, but they don't suck. I connect very well with them. So they're kind of exercises that I don't really need to think a lot about. So I usually move through these pretty quickly. With the preacher curl is super straightforward. I'm obviously focused on keeping my humerus completely locked in place. The pad is foolproof for doing that, but if your arm is coming off the pad, you're defeating the whole purpose. So the preacher curl, I'm obviously trying to stay locked in on that. The reverse pec deck fly, I'm trying to minimize the amount of scapular movement that I'm getting, so I'm not actively trying to get any like retraction or protraction at the shoulder blades. I'm trying to keep my shoulder blades completely still, and then thinking that the only thing is moving is the upper arm. And then the machine lateral raise, I'm thinking about keeping my arms fully extended and almost thinking about dragging my knuckles like along the wall as I'm coming up. So I'm never breaking at the elbow. I'm keeping my arm fully extended, knuckles try and sweep across the floor, and then try and sweep up along the walls. So the mic is also almost dying, so I'm going to bang out these 3 movements, and then we'll have 4 movements left: chest, triceps, lats, and upper back. All right, guys, we are checking in with a voiceover now. Unfortunately, there were some technical issues. I had kind of mentioned that the microphone was dying. It was actually not the microphone that was dying, it was the receiver for the microphone. So even if I was holding the microphone like in my mouth, there was no way that it was going to get picked up because the receiver was dead. And then actually, kind of funny compared to what I had mentioned at the beginning of the video, the music completely stopped playing in the gym. So it went from being really loud with music to being completely quiet. And so I really was not in the mood to be talking to myself in the complete silence at that point in the gym. So we're just going to do a little bit of a voiceover for the upper body portion of the training session. And this is where actually things kind of went a little bit sideways. For the remainder of the day. The first exercise that you're seeing here, the preacher curl, this was a pretty good movement. I was able to hold the same weight for the same amount of reps this week as what I had gotten in the week previously, but you'll notice in pretty much everything that follows that everything was either down 1 or 2 reps. I'm not sure if it was the lack of sleep, or just the cumulative fatigue from the upper body stuff at the beginning of the training session, but whatever way you want to skin it, the fact that basically the entire second half of this workout was regressive, not progressive. It was regressive, just kind of reinforces what I had mentioned at the beginning of the video of needing to take some sort of a deload and just trying to get my body and CNS recovered so that I can get back to progressing lifts. And obviously having lifts go backwards is not a recipe for building or maintaining muscle. So obviously we need to get on top of that as soon as we can. Now, depending on how I feel when I come back from the deload, I may actually lower the weight on a couple of these exercises and just try and get myself working in a slightly higher rep range. The particular weights that I've been using on the reverse pec deck and this Cybex lateral that you guys are seeing me do, I've been using for a very, very long time. And obviously, the muscle is still maintaining, even though the lift itself hasn't necessarily been getting stronger. That isn't necessarily showing a detriment in my physique. But I do still think that I could maybe keep these areas a little bit more full and looking a little bit more round if I were actually able to be progressing the lift every week instead of just simply maintaining it. So a lot of the reverse pec deck and lateral raise work that I've been doing has kind of been in the 5 to 6 rep range. And similar to what I had mentioned about the leg press, I think it may just be worth my time to reset those and kind of get those up maybe 8, 10, 12 reps or so here. This Arsenal incline was down another rep, working at 2.5 plates, so this has been pretty heavy lately. Arsenal stuff in general is extremely heavy. I don't know how many of you guys have ever actually used Arsenal strength equipment. There's not tons of it out there, but the Arsenal machines are really heavy. Like 2 plates on an Arsenal machine feels like 3 or 4 plates on like a hammer strength machine or something. So the Arsenal stuff is just kind of starting to get heavy. This particular narrow grip press here, you may notice that I've got some makeshift fat grips on there. It's probably hard to tell from the video, but the rubber handles that normally go over the grips on this machine have been ripped off, so the handle is actually really thin in diameter, and these really thin handles actually really bother my forearms and wrists over time, so I just wrapped my wrist wraps around the handles here just to make some makeshift fat grips, and that actually worked out really well. The lat pull downs that you're seeing me do here, I'm using a new attachment. This is the second time that I've used this attachment. This is a handle from a company called Raw Motive Works, and you may have been able to tell by that beginning part there where I was strapping in, but these handles actually rotate and swivel around, and the width of this handle is absolutely perfect for my lats. So this thing can kind of be a pain in the ass to get strapped into, especially once you get that first hand strapped in. It can be a little bit more difficult to get that second one strapped in. But once I can finally get everything strapped in and get settled down into the machine, this is an absolutely beautiful handle and attachment. For me, again, it just fits my lats so perfectly that this is, without question, the best cable pull-down attachment that I've ever used. I know that this isn't going to be in most people's gyms, but I am fortunate to have it in mine. And then the final exercise of the day that comes right after this is actually a cable row. And speaking of handles that are difficult to strap into, you'll notice that I'm doing these upper back rows with a prime handle. This is probably one of the original versions of the prime handle. It didn't rotate without having to be physically and manually unlocked. Now a lot of the prime stuff has like individual grooves that you would attach a handle to, but some of this original prime stuff was a little bit different than what it looks like nowadays. And I can still strap into it, but the way that the handles are shaped is kind of strange. Despite that, I've actually been kind of enjoying doing this movement. Normally, I wouldn't recommend doing an upper back focused row without some sort of a chest support, but I do a chest supported row in 3 of my 4 workouts. So for me to have a non-chest supported row variation somewhere in there has kind of just been a nice little mix up, and it just kind of changes up the pace every now and then. The only thing that really sucks about not having a chest support is that I find it really difficult for me to do Kelso shrugs after I hit full range of motion failure. Ideally, I would do some Kelsos after I can't get full retraction just to tack on some extra stimulus, but that's just really difficult for me to do without having a chest support. All right, post-workout, checking in with you guys. I actually had some technical difficulties towards the second half of that workout. First of all, I'm sure that I'll talk about this in the voiceover, but the music completely stopped playing. So it went from being loud as hell to no music at all. So it must be on some sort of a timer. But by that point, there was a lot of people in the gym, and honestly, I didn't really feel like talking to myself in the complete silence. And then when I went to check the mic was dead anyways. So I've kind of checked the footage, and it looks like what I did record was good. So obviously we're going to keep that in. Today's session was kind of 50-50. What's actually kind of funny is after I finished the lower body work, after I finished the leg press, I was thinking to myself, damn, this workout is going really good. Maybe I don't actually need to take a deload. And then basically all of the upper body stuff, other than the back work, the lat and upper back movement, all of the upper back stuff basically went down a rep. So I definitely need to take that deload. It's kind of funny how I was tricked into thinking that I may not need to take it, and then the second half of that workout kind of slapped me in the face. But obviously that may be because I didn't get as much sleep as normal last night, but I don't really think, obviously the back stuff progressed. So I think it's just the fact that my chest, triceps, delts, biceps, all that type of stuff, I've just been beating the shit out of that, and it's time for me to deload and get back to it. So tomorrow will be a rest day, and then I'll be back in here on Tuesday for full body D. That will be the final full body workout of this training block. And then I will start my deload and my diet break. It's only like 7:30 in the morning. So I've basically planned that I'm going to go home and take a shower and go back to sleep. And then the Bears play at 12 today. So I'm hoping for a win there. Overall, a pretty decent session. Obviously, the second half on paper, a lot of the stuff was down a rep, but that just kind of indicates, like what I've been talking about, that I'm definitely due for some sort of a deload. So I can take pride that I'm finishing off this training block on a strong note. I've squeezed every drop of progress that I can out of this training block. And now it's time for me to drop some fatigue, eat a little bit more food, and then obviously get back to pushing from there. I'll probably talk about this in a different video, but I'm so happy with where my training and where my physique and everything is at, considering that I've been cruising for the last like 10 weeks. So even though I'm going to be in a deficit, I'm super confident that once I get some supplementation back in, my recovery is going to take off. If my recovery is already being as good as it is when I'm off supplements, it's just only going to get even better when I get on. So I'm very excited for the future, but in the meantime, I need to deload and diet break. Thanks a lot for tuning in with me today, guys, and listening to my yap session. As always, any questions, leave them in the comments. If you're interested in online coaching or any of my services, I have those in the comments as well, or in the description, excuse me. Take care of yourselves, guys. If you're training today, train hard. If you're resting, rest hard. And as always, take care of yourselves.
Uh.